What's the best use of him in the lineup? And we think it makes sense for Toronto to want him back.
I think so. I actually, it was a tough year for Pacioretty. Like he was getting hurt, not just in games, but in practices. And he just seemed to, he couldn't stay healthy enough to get in that lineup. And then there was also, he was battling guys like Nick Robertson for playing time. But, come playoff time, you did realize how valuable he is and that physical presence. And I think, yeah, he had a bit of kind of stoicism, having spent his majority of his career in Montreal. The big lights of Toronto didn't phase him one bit. So I would bring him back. I would bring back Tavares. I think you need some veterans. I think Florida Panthers and some of these other teams like the Edmonton Oilers are showing that having Corey Perry, having Brad Marchand, having some of these older guys, they are very valuable come playoff time. And, as long as you can get Pacioretty at a decent rate, I would definitely bring him back.
Yeah, Ryan, is this kind of like part of the DNA, that they're maybe looking to improve upon? Because it seems like that might be like what Michael's saying, a guy that could start to fit that new genetic mold that they're looking for.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And you think about Pacioretty's big guy, plays heavy, can get you some secondary offense there. And I agree with Mike, especially early in the season, he had great chemistry with Tavares. The Leafs, obviously, the forward core could look very different very soon, and how they use that money is going to be interesting. But I think Pacioretty, it felt like a very good fit, and you can probably get him for a reasonable contract.
Yeah.
Maybe he's also the type of player where you institute some sort of load management because that he has had a lot of injuries, throughout his career, but particularly in the past sort of 4 or 5 years, where you say, like, you know what, like, you don't have to play every game. We want to make sure you're ready for the playoffs because we saw you thrive in that environment.
Yeah, they did the same thing with Jason Spezza a few years back, where he wasn't in for definitely wasn't playing in back-to-back games, and then certain stretches you'd sit him down just because that kind of guy. I think also they're so valuable off the ice, regardless of what kind of production he puts forward on the ice.